Episode 61. Qiancheng was a member of Blue Brook Guild. Don't be fooled by how Yi Shu made him look like a fool. Among the general player base, he was considered a rare and skilled expert. In terms of pure skill, he wasn't necessarily any worse than the so-called five greats. To earn a title like Top 5 Experts, you need two things. First, you need rock-solid skill. Second, you need rock-solid popularity. When enough people back you up, that's how you become one of the five. As for Qiancheng, he's got a bit of a following, sure. But the real issue is his one hardcore flaw. He loves to steal kills. Blue Brook Guild is one of the three great guilds, but precisely because of that, its standards for members are even higher. While the guild didn't demand members be humble and keep their heads down, actions like stealing kills were explicitly forbidden by its rules. No one could argue with a rule like that. Guilds that get a little power and then act all high and mighty, forming groups to claim territory and steal monsters, they're doomed to fail. The quality of their members is just too poor. But Qiancheng, he just happens to have this particular hobby. And what's more, he's a genuine expert, a rare and valuable one at that. The guild didn't want his attitude, but they couldn't bear to lose a player of his caliber. In the end, the guild just turned a blind eye. Fortunately, this guy Qiancheng knew his place. He never wore the guild's name when he went out to cause trouble, so the players he bullied never held Blue Brook Guild accountable. For the 10th server guild clearing, this guy, for some reason, got a sudden whim and signed up to join in. While he hadn't caused any more scandals for the guild, he was still seen as a ticking time bomb. Seeing this person volunteer to go to the new server, the guild leader immediately gave his full support and heaped praise upon him. Finally, he kicked the bomb over to Blue River, telling him to keep an eye on it and make sure it didn't go off. Blue River was practically in tears. This was the prime time for clearing and leveling in the new server, and that bomb was like being roasted over an open fire. Fortunately, the new server was packed, with everyone scrambling for mobs. Thousand Cities was in his element, putting his specialty to good use, and he didn't stand out in the slightest. And in the future? Blue River thought it over. While leveling, he'd try to keep this guy in the party. That way, he could keep an eye on him and reduce the chances of him going out to steal monsters. Yet, before the second day of the new server was even over, the bomb had already gone off, and of all the people it could have hit, it had to be the very talent he was now most focused on recruiting, Lord Grimm. Blue River was annoyed. He had clearly reminded everyone in the guild that Lord Grimm was a talent they needed to recruit. He told them all to try and build a rapport, to get on his good side. Thousand City should have seen the message. But is this kid's idea of building a relationship really just stealing kills? Blue River knew this wasn't the time to dwell on it. Since Lord Grimm was someone he was determined to recruit for the guild, and since Thousand City was also a Blue Brook Guild matter, there was no way to keep it hidden. What's the point of running away and pretending you don't know him now?
What an idiot.
Blue River muttered a few curses under his breath. Then he strode up to Lord Grimm and greeted him with a hearty laugh.
What a coincidence, you're here too.
Leveling.
Don't mind that kid. The whole guild's been talking about you and singing your praises these past couple of days. He probably got jealous and came looking for trouble.
Blue River's handling of the situation was quite masterful. First, he glossed over Thousand City's malicious monster stealing, framing it as Thousand City acting out of jealousy towards the expert's fame and skill, coming to stir up trouble and issue a challenge. This explanation was far more palatable. And in the process, he subtly conveyed the guild's admiration for Lord Grimm. What a smooth, underhanded compliment. But Yi Shu knew the truth. Thousand City had already stolen the monster before he even realized who he was dealing with. Any jealousy or desire to challenge him based on his fame and skill would have come after the fact. But Yi Shu couldn't be bothered to dwell on it. He just gave a casual smile and said,
"The kid's a bit of a handful."
Yeah, exactly. Look, he even ran off, afraid I'd scold him.
If it were anyone else, Blue River could have called them over to apologize or something. Forget about Qian Cheng. If he were the type to listen to reason, someone would have talked him out of his nasty habit of kill-stealing ages ago.
So, do you want to team up with us?
No need. I'll just train on my own.
Actually, we're not here for leveling.
Oh?
Yishu's mind raced. The day was almost over. Blue River and his team couldn't possibly still be running the Burial Grounds dungeon. They weren't here to run a dungeon, and they weren't here to level. Could it be?
Realizing Blood Gunner, Agate.
Just as Yishu suspected, Blood Gunner Yago was the wild boss of the Burial Grounds. While these open-world bosses are guaranteed to spawn, they're even more valuable than hidden ones. That's because each boss only refreshes 3 times a week, and the timing and location are completely random, though always somewhere within the Burial Grounds. Wild bosses also have a glory ranking, with a first clear record and a kill count. The first clear, of course, can only be claimed by one player or one team. As for the kill count, just like Dungeon Clear records, it lists the top 3 names and their scores. Currently, no wild boss has been killed on the 10th server. Currently, there are only 2 within the player's reach, the Blood Gunner, Yago, in the Boneyard, and the Goblin Merchant, Lauren, in the Frost Forest. There were no field bosses in the beginner villages. Yishu did have a need for field boss drops, but they were a matter of chance, not something to be sought. Flying solo, he didn't harbor any grand illusions about snagging one. He had originally planned to acquire the materials from the wild boss through the market, but since he'd run into one, there was no harm in giving it a shot. But the key to killing a field boss has never been the kill itself, it's the steal. The real threat isn't the boss itself, but the other players who've come to hunt it. While a wild boss is tough, it's still just a system monster. Players who farmed them know that a proper team can take one down without a single casualty. Yet, every single hunt for a wild boss ends with casualties. It's all due to the chaotic free-for-all between competing players. Even with the skill to solo a boss, Yishu couldn't just waltz in and snatch it from the collective might of a guild. That's because the ownership calculation for a world boss is different from a regular mob, and a world boss's health pool is the most terrifying of all boss-level monsters. He needed to maintain a massive sustained output. If simply landing the first and last hits could secure 2/3 of the claim, then no one would be willing to do the heavy lifting in between. So, the ownership of a wild boss is determined purely by raw DPS output. No single player, no matter how strong, can outdamage an entire team.
Hey, you interested in going to check it out?
Blue River continued speaking, and Yishu readily accepted. Blue River gave a hearty laugh and sent over a party invite. Once Lord Grimm had joined the party, he added with a hint of regret,
If only you hadn't left the guild yet.
In Glory, the rules state that after leaving a guild, you can't join a new one for 5 days.